How's it going? Will here from the nerdy side of tech. And right off the back, the very first thing I want to talk to you about is you have a critical decision to make. And the way you make your decision will weigh on which path you take. Now, for me, I honestly already made my decision and I made the wrong decision. That's why I want to make sure I share it with you. So, the whole purpose of what we're doing is so that we can learn as quick as possible so we can enjoy the learning process and we're not fearful or afraid to break something because we then have the time to sit down and fix it. However, if we did that on, our actual MacBook Pros or our PCs, we would be fearful of breaking something and not being able to undo what we did unless we did a hard reset, and nobody got time for all that. So, what I did was I bought my first build that I was gonna share with you, and I'll share with you really quickly. So, because you absolutely gonna see this build, but this right here is the Raspberry Pi 5. This is the 16 gigs of RAM because they recently just dropped this. So this has 16 gigs of RAM instead of 8. To pair it, I had this case right here. Now, this case has an NVMe storage bank under the bottom, which means we're able to run our Pis off of NVMe versus micro SD cards, which is pretty cool. And the one that I got was right here, which is, do I got it upside down? I sure do, which is 512. So this was going to be the build. This cost me roughly about 350 bucks. But I decided against this being a build for one critical reason, which is the name of the game is to learn as fast as we can so we can start creating cool projects so that the faster we learn Linux, the faster we can start doing some creative projects within Linux and within using single board computers. So with that in mind, I decided to take a step back. Instead of getting a Raspberry Pi 5 for my training, I want to get the Raspberry Pi 4. The reason why is because it has way more distros on it, but more importantly, I like to pair my Raspberry Pi with my iPad Pro. Now, you can use any iPad, but here's what I'm getting. I don't have to worry about a keyboard, monitor, mouse, any of that, because the way we're going to be using our Raspberry Pi is 100% in the terminal, which is SSH, every single time we want to connect to it. The easiest way to connect your Raspberry Pi to your iPad is with the Raspberry Pi 4 because the Raspberry Pi 5, they changed something. So you can't put it in what's called gadget mode. So I decided that I want to have a Raspberry Pi 4 for what I train on. And then when I'm doing my builds and things like that, I can use a Raspberry Pi 5. But my training one is going to be a Raspberry Pi 4 because honestly, you don't really need a lot of power right now. And with it being a Raspberry Pi 4, it saves a ton of money. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So you can see right here, this is the current build that you're looking at. You can see that I picked up the Raspberry Pi 5 as soon as I was able to, which was March 26, 2025. And then you can see this is 16 gigs of RAM. You can see this by itself is $159.99. And the next thing to pair with it would be this case right here. You can see some of this stuff I picked up a while back. I just had laying around. And you can see right here, this has a fan baked in. I really like this case. Like I really, really like this case. Then you can see we have the NVMe. You can see I just picked this one up April 3rd, 2025, because again, this is something that Raspberry just came out with. So it wasn't available. So this is pretty new technology. We still need a micro SD card, even if we're going to be using this just to be able to flash it over. That's the process. And then we need a card reader. So this is the card reader I got. I've had this for a good little while now. I freaking love this thing. It's a champ. You can see it gives me like 3.0 speeds. And I don't have anything bad to say about it. You might feel like 26 bucks is overpriced or 27, but any card reader will work, but this is what I have. And then this is the cable, which is Thunderbolt 3. Now, I see it says frequently returned, but I think that frequently returned is more so because the cable is too short and people don't realize it versus, the cable not performing, because I have this cable and it works. It works really well. Now that you see that in that build, I'll link that up below. But keep in mind, I don't recommend this right now. I do got it, and it's costing me even more money to get this right. So hear me out. This is the build I recommend you start with right here. This is the Raspberry Pi Module 4, Compute Module B, 8 gigabytes of RAM. No, it's not 16, it's 8. This case right here, I highly recommend it. And then we need a micro SD card. The micro SD cards are going to fail on us eventually, but that's why we have to learn how to back up our micro SD card, back up our operating systems to a different micro SD card. So that way, when we copy it over, we don't have to worry about if it failed. If it failed, we already got a backup of it and we just pop in a new backup. So we're gonna figure out how to do that together. As you know, I'm learning with you. So if we look right here, I'm gonna show you why I like this case. And really quickly, so I like this case for this reason right here. You can see it says Geek Pi case for Raspberry Pi, but when we click into it, I like the fact that it's aluminum, and I like the fact that if you look up here, all these holes. And this is the only case that I could find that made it easy for me to put in and take out my micro SD card, which is right here. I want something that gives me easy access to that. Then you can see right here, I like the fact of the heat sinks are real heat sinks, and the fan is actually blowing it out, and the fan is actually screwed down so it stays in place. This was a well thought out build. That's the reason why I like it. Then you can see right here, this gives us, you can see the difference in our boards. We got the GPIO pins right here, and then we have our PoE pins right here. So right here, and PoE is just power over Ethernet, if you're curious. So this right here, I like that. I like this. And I feel like this is the best one I could find for the Raspberry Pi 4. Now, don't get me wrong, you have better ones for the 5, but for the 4, that's the best one I can find. These are all the tools that come with it. And this build out is going to cost me, let's see here, $118.17 before tax. After tax is going to be a little bit more. This is the build I recommend you start with too, because I'm telling you, even if you're not going to use it with, let's say, your MacBook Pro, maybe you don't have an iPad. If you have an iPad, it doesn't have to be an iPad Pro, it could be any iPad. It'll work with this. If you don't have an iPad, I still recommend you go with this because it has more technology we can play with. And right now, honestly, we're not in a place where we really care about power and speed because honestly, we're just learning the terminal and we're learning technologies as we go. And we can always swap out different micro SD cards. So if we have our base SD card, micro SD card, let's say, is Linux on Ubuntu server, well, that's our training one. We can pop that out and we can put in a new micro SD card and play with different flavors of Linux. And that's not server side. That's the actual desktop versions of them where we can really have some fun. And then when it's time for us to get back to the command line, we can take that micro SD card out and put back in our Linux one where we're actually studying the server and stuff like that. So it's just a lot more flexibility. That's what it breaks down to. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna purchase this. It's gonna take a few days to come, and then once it comes, then we're going to build it out. I'm gonna show you how to build it out and all that other cool stuff and how I'm setting up my environment. So let me purchase this right now. All right, we're all set. As you can see, I've just purchased it. It'll arrive on Wednesday. My total cost for today was only $130.59. And you can see I got the Raspberry Pi 4 computer model B, 8 gigs of RAM. And you can see I got the SD card, which is 128 gigs. And I got the Geek Pi case for the Raspberry 4. So that's all I got. And through the power of editing, I'm going to fast forward to when this arrived and we can start building it. All right, so as you can see, the Compute Module 4 has arrived. And right before you, as you can see, these are all the components we're going to be using. Now, we will be using either, I'm going to use a Mac, but if you're a PC person, then you can use your PC. I'm also going to make sure that my iPad works as well. But here's the deal. You don't need an iPad in order to do this. You can absolutely just use your PC or your Mac as SSHN from there. The only reason why I'm doing it this way is because I like the ideal of being able to just grab my iPad and my Raspberry Pi and hit the door and go do some studying or playing around with the Linux and all that other stuff without needing my big, massive computer. But just keep in mind, if you want to use your computer or your Mac, you absolutely can. So really quickly, I'm going to show you the components that I have. This is my toolkit of choice. This is 122 piece set. You really don't need all of this, but if you need it, you got it. That's my thought on it. The next one that we're going to have is going to be the Raspberry Pi itself. This is the Raspberry Pi 4. Now, the reason why we want to use this is because this will allow us to be able to put it into gadget mode, as we spoke about a little bit earlier. The next thing we're going to have is the case. This is the case right here. So we're going to be using this. Then we're going to have our SD card. So I got an SD card. I grabbed another Anchor cable, but honestly, I already have an Anchor cable. I just grabbed it for this build if you're doing the gadget mode. And then this right here is the actual Anchor card reader that I'm going to be using. So on each end, I can do USB-A or USB-C. So that's the reason why I like it. With this card reader, as you can see, it gives me micro at the top and full size SD card reader at the bottom. So these are the components we're going to be using. So now we can start opening this stuff up and we can get to it. All right, so first things first, I'm going to actually open up, I'll put this to the side for right now. We can keep this right here. The cable is going to come in later, so we can put that to the side. Now, it should be said that when you're dealing with this, you should make sure you don't have any electricity on your hand or anything like that, especially if you got a carpet like me. This box actually makes sure that it doesn't have any static. That's why it doesn't come in a bag anymore, as you can see. So when you slide it out, this is it right here. We have documentation inside the box, but first things first, we want to put it together. We want to get it up and going as quick as possible. I really like this case. I really, really do. Look how small that form factor is. I really like that. I like that a lot. So once we got this built out, I'll give you a close-up and show it to you. So let's see. We're gonna just take that apart. Comes with a little bag from Geek Pie. That's a nice touch. I'm gonna put that to the side for now. Oh, it got tools inside of here to put it together. How cool is that? So we can get everything out. We got our heat sinks and looks good. We got our, okay, these are, looks like all these screws are the same size except for two maybe. And I don't think we have any instructions in the box. Sure we do. So here are the instructions right here. So we want to follow these instructions, we can. And you can see the instructions is right here on how to install it. So we could do step 1, step 2, then we turn it on the back and you can see it's step 4. So we can just put the instructions right here in front of us just in case, to be on the safe side. Now, first things first, I know I want to put on these heat sinks. And the picture shows you where the heat sinks go. So I'm just going to open those up. I really like the fact that it come with these and not the other ones. And these feel like they're aluminum. So we can see where the heat sinks go right here. And you can see it in that picture right there. So if you can see right here in this picture, it shows you exactly where the heat sink's supposed to go, which makes it really easy for us. All right. And we can see this is how it looks before the heat sink. So now we're gonna put the heat sinks on. All right. You wanna peel the blue one. We're gonna put this on our CPU. Add a little pressure to it. This one is going to go on our RAM, which is going to sit right here. So we're going to take this little blue peel off. I remove the blue paper, although I call it a blue peel. I'm going to sit that down up in there with a nice tub. And then this one right here is going to sit right here, like so. So we're going to take this blue paper off as well. Then we're going to set it right here. And apply a little pressure. And this is how the first part of it should look. So super easy. All right. The next step, if we're following the directions, is we need to connect the fan. So these are basically power and ground. So this is how we're going to power the fan, and we're going to use our GPIO pins. All right. So if you're not 100% sure how to do this, you can look at the paper and it tells you exactly where it's supposed to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the red go first. And then we're going to have the black right next to it. Okay, so now you can see where the pins go. You can see it's the red one first and it's the black one second. Now, to get orientated, here are our PoE pins. And then we want it on the first row, not the second row. The second row would be the closest to the CPU and our RAM. We don't want it on that row. We want it on the very first row. We're going to skip one pin on that first row, and then we're going to put it in that second row. And as you can see, that's how we have it. Easy peasy. All right. We have to put it the other way because we want it to fall into those holes. All right, there we go. We want those lined up. And we're going to come up in here. We're going to be using these screws right here. And we have two different screws. And the two different screws, I'm assuming these are for up here for our fan to be locked in. So we're going to just drop those out. And you can see the two screws is different because they're much longer. So you can see right here. Not sure how well you can see that. Yeah, it's no easy way for me to show you this. But these screws are longer and these screws are fatter. So that's the easiest way to be able to tell them apart. Now I just want to put these in here. We're not going to screw them in tight because honestly, we want to make sure everything is correct before we start tightening things up and committing to it. Now, admittedly, it would be easier if I used my other one, but it seems like this might be magnetized. Yeah, actually it is magnetized. So, okay, so that's not bad. We don't even have to hold it. That just made life a lot easier. All right, so those are in now. There is still movable. You can see it's still a lot of play. Now, you can see this has two screws in it. We're gonna have it sit up like so. That's how we want it to sit, like that up in there. So we're gonna put two screws up in there and lock this fan in really quickly. And that is going to be the longer ones. So let's put that right there. All right, give it a little tug. I want to wire these in a way that it's not blocking my GOI pins. All right. Now we can go ahead and screw all of these down. We're just giving it a little tug. We're not trying to show how strong we are. That's all we're doing. All right, let's see. Once we put this on, close it up. All right, so that's how it goes. Our last screw goes right here. Now, this is the build out. Honestly, it is pretty nice as you can see. All of our lines line up. I don't like the fact, I feel like they cheated me on this part, but wasn't that expensive, only 10 bucks, so can't ask for too much. Then we got that right there for the SD card. And we actually have mounting points up under here if we wanted to mount this somewhere. Now, I really like this because it's aluminum and honestly, I don't have to worry about it. So if you want to see a top-down version of it, you can see right here, this is all holes under here. This holes, ton of ventilation, ton of ventilation. Like I said, I picked this because of this right here. I wanted something that allowed me to get into it really easily. And I have big hands as you can see, so I don't want to be fidgeting around with it. So this allows me to get into it, grab the micro SD card fairly easy. Now, all of this is done. The hard part is over. We can put our standoff on there if we want to. So these go right here. And this just allows it to set up off the ground or off the surface of whatever we put it on. And we can put these right here. Now for me, I'm not really sure how likely this is to stay on because this is going to be, well, actually for me, this is going to stay on because I was going to say this is going to be the one that I keep with me at all times, but it's not. This is our demo one. So you can see there go the standoff. And yeah, easy peasy. So now let's clean up this. And we didn't even need this tool set. How cool is that? All right, so now we need this and we need this. And we need our laptop or PC. So let me crack this open really quickly. All right, that's the only part of the card I need for right now. I don't need the adapter, so I'll just put it right there. I'm going to put this right here. And my laptop is a USB-C, so I'm gonna use the USB-C portion. I'm gonna put this to the side. All right, so here we are at my laptop. So as you can see, I'm just gonna plug this into the side really quickly. And if we move that out the way, we can see that it popped up right here. Now what I wanna do is, we're at Google already, so I'm just gonna put in Raspberry Pi Imager because this is what we need. We're gonna click on the first link, and this is what you need to install. Now, here's the deal. I'm on a Mac, so I would download the Mac. If you on, a Windows one, you will install Windows. If you on Ubuntu or x86, you will install this one. You can also install it from the command line, from sudo apt install, and then you could install it from there. I already have it, so I'm not gonna do that. So I'm just gonna minimize this, and I'm just gonna bring it up right quick. I'm gonna say imager. Now this is the imager right here. Now when it comes to the imager, there are a few things we're gonna want to do just to make sure we get this right. So I'm gonna say choose device. This is not a Raspberry Pi 5, so I'm gonna say Raspberry 4. I'm setting mine up for Ubuntu. You can set yours up for Raspberry if you want to. So I'm gonna say other general purpose. I'm gonna say Ubuntu. And I'm actually gonna set mine up from the server. So basically with the server, that just simply means that I'm gonna set it up from the server, but I can always go in and add a desktop version to it if I want. But because this is training for us, I'm not going to have this set up for, being able to have desktop view because we want to play with the terminal. We want to get used to it. So as a result, I'm just going to set it up for a server. So Ubuntu server is right here. I'm gonna say choose storage. I'm gonna click on the one I just installed. I'm gonna say next. Now, before I continue, I wanna make sure I say edit settings. Now, over here, you wanna make sure you pick whatever makes sense for you. So you wanna make sure that all your stuff is correct over here. So I'm gonna make sure my stuff is correct, then I'm gonna move on to the next step. All right, so over here up under services, once you leave from general, you wanna make sure you turn on enable SSH. This will allow us to troubleshoot. If we run into any issues, we're gonna click on save and we're gonna say yes. Then we're gonna say yes. Now it's gonna ask you for your password. You wanna input your password and continue. Now that it's starting, mine should move a little bit faster, but this process takes a few minutes. So if you want to go grab some coffee, tea, drink, or whatever case may be, this will be the perfect time to do it before we move to the next step. Because as you can see, mine is going pretty fast because I've done this already before. All right, so right now it's going through the verification process and we're almost done. It's actually going to eject once it's done, and then we're gonna plug it back up. All right, it's finalizing. As you can see, it just ejected. So I'm gonna say continue. I'm actually gonna close out of this. Now I'm gonna unplug it, and I'm simply gonna plug it back in. So I'm gonna wait on it to pop up. It just did. And I'm gonna double click. It should say system boot. And there's a few files up in here we wanna change. So the first one file we're gonna change is going to be the command line, which is right here. I'm gonna double click into it. I'm gonna wait on it to open. And this is the command line right here. So here's the word rootway. So before rootway, I just want to add in this right here. So as you can see, module dash load equals DWC2 dash G underscore ether. Once I've done that, I'm gonna say save. Command S, and then I'm gonna leave out. Now, the next one we're gonna do is the config file right here. But all of this that I'm doing right now, as you can see, is right below this video. So you literally can copy and paste everything that I'm doing. So if you haven't done it, you can do it. If you need it, you can. But I highly recommend you copy and paste and not try to type it in. All right. So this will ensure we get it correctly. So now we up under config.txt. And I felt like I did that too fast. So it's right up under command line. So we're going to double click it. And once it open up, we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. I'm going to drop down a line. And this is what we want to paste in. This is going to be this right here, which is what turns it into gadget mode. Then after that, we're going to save it up. We're going to leave out. And we're going to simply eject it. Once we do that, we can now unplug this, plug it into our Raspberry Pi. As you can see, flip it upside down, slide it in there, push it in like so. And now I'm going to be using USB-C. So I'm actually I have a lot of cables on my desk. So I just gotta find a USB-C power cable. I'm gonna plug it up. And as you can see, I am getting lights. They're showing green right here as well as red. Now it's just showing green, so it's doing this thing. I'm gonna set it down. While it's doing this thing, I'm actually gonna show you something on my computer really quickly. I use a tool called iTerm. It's 100% free, and I like this better than a normal terminal app. Is this right here. So this is what I'm gonna be using. If you want to, you can just say turn, and here's your normal terminal app, but I'm gonna use iTerm, which is right here. All right, so I'm gonna say dismiss. I'm gonna minimize this, and let's make this a little bit bigger. There's a few ways we can SSH into this. Because we're on the same internet or the same Wi-Fi as the Pi, we should be able to easily SSH into it. Now, if I say SSH and do tab over, that's not what I wanted. This should allow me in. And right now you can see that it's connected to the Pi. This right here is asking me, I'm just gonna say yes. It's asking me for the password. I'm gonna say enter. And now it should give me access. And as you can see, we're now in the Pi. So if I say clear, and right now I wanna just pause because if all you want is to be able to practice on your Raspberry Pi using your computer, you can do that. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm on my Mac. As you can see, I'm running my Pi headless and I don't have any issues. 100% headless. Now, if you want to be able to have Ethernet, always have the same Ethernet and all that other stuff, then you want to follow this next step. All right. If you don't want to always make sure you're on Ethernet, then I guess you don't have to follow this next step. But honestly, I recommend you follow this next step, even if you're not going to have it, because it's going to allow you to be able to go into the net plan file that we finna set up and be able to change your Wi-Fi to whatever your current Wi-Fi is. And it allows you to do it over Ether. It allows you to always be able to connect, even if you're not on the same Wi-Fi. All right. So let's move on to the next step. So the first thing we're gonna say is we're gonna say which net plan. And because we got that, we don't have to worry about it. Now, if this didn't come up for you, then you will want to install. But since we already have it, we can skip over it and we can come down to the very next part, which is going to be sudo nano. Then it's going to be etc. Well, actually, if you want to, we don't even have to do that because you technically could do, ls to see where you are. And then you could say cd into, then you can say ls again. And then we can see that we want to go into this etc file. Then we can say ls. Then we can say cd into netplan. And now that we're in netplan, we can see this is what's in netplan. So now we could say sudo, because that's saying we have the privileges necessary to be able to create this file. And then we could say nano, which I really don't like nano, but we're going to use nano. And we're going to say RPI-YAML. It's asking me for my password. Now that I gave it my password, now I could do it. Now below here, you should see what we need to paste in. I'm going to say paste it in. And as you can see really quickly, because I have a mouse, this is whatever's in between these parentheses right here is what you want to change. You don't want to touch the parentheses. You only want to change what's inside the parentheses. So for me, I want my Raspberry Pi to connect to my current Wi-Fi that I'm on right now. So in order to do that, I have to change this. Because once we save this file, we're gonna knock it off the internet. So as soon as we save this file and execute it, it is no longer on the internet. So we want to make sure we set this up with whatever settings we set up for it inside of the Raspberry Pi Imager app. All right, so I'm gonna do that really quickly. And we still have to use the arrows over to do this. And then it'll be a lot easier if you don't have spaces in your password. If you do have spaces in your passwords, then you might want to go back and change it to something else. Okay, so now that we got that set up, we're gonna do Control O, and you can see Control O down here is to write. So you can see right here it says Control O to write. So we're gonna say Control O. We're gonna say Enter. You can see that 13 lines was written. Then we're gonna say Control X to exit. Then if we want to see what's in that file we just created, we can say cat. So cat is to see what's in a file. And then if we want to bring up that same one again, we could say 20 and then hit tab, because that's the only thing up in here is going to let us see it. And we can see that it was successfully written. Now, what we want to do is we want to actually tell NetPlan to apply what we just did. Because although that file is there, NetPlan hasn't applied it yet. So we need it to apply it. So in order to do that, all we got to do is say sudo. So it's really simple. It's just sudo net plant, and then you're going to say apply. Enter. Now, this warning that we're getting right here is for permissions. Now, permissions is basically saying that, basically what this is saying is, hey, you're basically giving everybody who has access to this Raspberry Pi access to this very important file. So what it's saying is we need to fix that. The way we fix it is really easy. We're going to say sudo chmod. So change mode is what that stands for. We're going to say 600. 600, think of like 600 being like 600. So 6 gives us permission to read and write. 4 points means we could just read it. 6 points mean we can read and write. And if we wanted to make it executable, then we would give us one more point, which would be 7, and we'll have full access. But since this is not a file that requires that, then we don't need to do that. Now, 00 is for the users on here as well as the group on here. So users is 0, which means they can't read or write, and group is 0, which means they can't read or write. So that's what that 600 means. Okay. Then we can come back over here and we can say 20 dash, and then I'm gonna hit enter. But before I hit enter, I want to show you something because it's an easy way for you to be able to see this. So we're gonna say ls dash ala, and you can see right now, if you look right here, it says they can read, write. The file is wide open, as you can see. So you see right here where it says 20 rpi.yaml. So they can read it, and I can read and write. So we want to change this to say dash dash, and only I have read write. So in order to do that, we just say sudo change mode 600. So I keep my read and write, and they lose their ability to read it. And then we say 20 tab enter. Now if I do ls dash la, you can see now, if we look at that file, their permissions is gone. Well, our permissions remained intact. So now that that's done, I should be able to clear it. And if for whatever reason we want to do like a we want to change our Wi-Fi, all we literally have to do, I'm going to say clear. We're going to say CD, and we're going to do that. Now this puts us back where we started at, which is home. So now we literally can just say CD, and we CD in / etc. Where are we going inside of etc? We can say net plan. And you see when I press tab, maybe I don't know where I want to go. I see net plan, so I'm going to say /. I'm going to say enter. And now if I hit ls, you can see there it go right there. So I could say 20. Then if I hit sudo, it's not, what's going to happen is I have to say sudo nano. And now if I hit, let's say 20, I hit tab, it's going to work. It's not going to work if I hit tab because this is a text file that I have to open. So once I hit enter, I now can come up in here and change this file however I see fit. All right, so if I'm on a new Wi-Fi, I just change that Wi-Fi access point. So now I just say Control X to leave up out of there, and I'm going to say power down. All right, now that it's powered off, and I just use sudo power off to do it. Now that it's off, I can safely unplug it. All right, so now we're at the part where we need this anchor cable. It's very reliable, and this is it right here. It's a Thunderbolt 3, so we don't have to worry about it not being able to give it power and transfer data. So I'm going to plug my Raspberry Pi into this end, and I'm going to plug it directly into my power source, directly into my Pi. And my Raspberry Pi is already coming on, as you can see. So it's getting power. You can see the lights right here. So We just want to let it do its thing and load up. While it's doing that, we're going to jump over to settings. And right here, we should have something called Ethernet pop up. There it go right there, like clockwork. We're going to click over here. And right now, we're just waiting on it to give us an IP address. So while we're waiting on it to do that, we're going to come back over here to, let's see, settings. We're going to go over to App Store. I'm going to show you the one that I'm using. So I'm using, now you can come up in here and you can type in terminal and it'll give you a ton of terminals. And trust me, I didn't play with a lot of them. You got ISH Shell, you got Terminus, you have A Shell, you have a lot of them. You have X Terminal, Web, and honestly, you have SSH File. You have a ton of them. But what I landed on was one called Blink. This is, I gotta scroll down a little bit. So this is it right here. This is the one I use. I like this because it's just, I mean, honestly, it's fun. It makes life a lot easier. So this is what I'm gonna be using. It is paid, so you have to, weigh your options for that part right there. But it's a solid app. And as you can see, we have an IP address. So now that we have this IP address, this means that I'm not connected. I'm gonna turn off my Wi-Fi just so you'll see. And now when I come over to Blink, open it up, I'm gonna clear this. So config allows us to add a new one. I can come up in here and I could say host, and I could say Raspberry Pi 4, and it's gonna be a local host. So that would be Will Talk Tech, password, and my username is Will. All right. So now, if I click save, okay, so it says spaces are not permitted in alias. So I could say pi, I could say 4, then I could say save. There we go. Now, I should be able to say SSH, RP, tab, enter. I'm gonna say yes. And now you can see I'm connected. And if we look at my Wi-Fi is not on. So now I can clear this. And the cool part about this is I don't need an internet. I don't need internet, but if I wanted internet, I would be able to come over here and say, let's see here, clear. Now my Pi should have internet, but my iPad is just not connected to the same internet. But let's make sure, let's say sudo install, let's say sudo apt install. Well, actually, before we do any of that, we should say sudo apt update -y. It's asking me for my password. And the fact that you see this stuff coming up on the side, it absolutely is connected to the internet. You can see where it's saying like 126 kilobytes, 14.7 kilobytes. All of that means it's actually talking to these different ports, these different places, and getting the updated packages for each one. So as a result, I do have the internet. However, this isn't connected. So now I can do sudo apt upgrade -y. Okay, so that's different. I'm gonna say clear sudo apt. All right, it's telling me everything is upgraded, but let's just double confirm that. All right, so I'm just gonna say sudo reboot. All right, so that reboot kicked me out. My Raspberry Pi is rebooting. So basically, as you can see, hopefully you can see how easy this process was. But more importantly, I hope you see how cool it is to be able to grab just your Raspberry Pi, as you can see, connect it to your iPad and just run off and start practicing Linux commands and things like that. Now, I personally feel like this is the best way to learn because if I get stuck or something like that, I always have access to my actual computer. Now, well, my internet on here. Now, I would say we should be using Mosh so we don't lose connection, but that's a future video. For that, this is all I got for you. We're gonna reconnect really quickly just to show you that everything looks good. You can see we have our Ethernet still plugged up. So because of that, now I can say SSH RP4. I can say tab over, enter. It's connected to 169.254.68.138. Now this is a local IP address. So now I can say clear. I can say sudo. So one of the things you're gonna have to deal with is, as you can see at the top, when I clear it, that's what happens. But sudo apt install neofetch. This is just gonna allow us to make sure that we got all the right things. I'm gonna say Y for yes. Right now it's going out and installing it. Now, honestly, I'm not a big fan of APT, package manager. I've learned that I really like a package manager called Nyla. So that's something that I'm going to install later, but that's outside the scope of this video. But if you wanted to install it, it's just simply sudo apt install Nyla. So right now it's doing this thing. And once it's done, I'll be able to show you. Now, what NeoFetch allows me to do is it actually allows me to show you that I'm actually am running on the actual Raspberry Pi and I'm not running off some server somewhere. So I'm actually on hardware. So as soon as this finishes installing, I'll be able to show you. All right, so I'm not gonna clear it, but I can say NeoFetch. And now you can see that I'm actually running Ubuntu 25.05. You can see it's the Raspberry Pi 4 Module B. You can see that my uptime has been 3 minutes, gives you my kernel, gives you the shell that I'm using, which is Bash, my terminal, as well as my CPU processor, as well as my memory. And you can see, now if I did HTOP, you can see that it gives us everything. We can see at a glance everything our system is doing. I can say Q to quit that. So that's all I got for you in this video, but I have a ton more content coming your way. So if you didn't click on the subscribe button and you just clicked on a sample letter, it should be a link below here that allows you to go back over to the first page, opt in. You're gonna get this exact same video again. However, you're gonna get exclusive content coming straight to you, as well as make sure you keep an eye out on the YouTube channel because I'm gonna be dropping fresh new content over there as well. And it's all about my journey to learning. And this is my learning environment. This is my setup. As you can see, this is pretty cool. We're running a Raspberry Pi headless and we're just using a single cable to do it. Pretty cool stuff. So with that being said, I'm Will. This is the nerdy side of tech. Enjoy. Till next time. Later.